Good evening, folks. This is your boy Crispy Daniels back in effect. Once again, you are on another episode of Show and Talk. And today, we will be continuing our Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction series review. And this time, we are on episode 10, season 2. Now, before we get started, I would like to say I really very much appreciate all of my subscribers. Y'all don't know what you did for me. It might be a small thing to you, but it's a very, very, very large thing to me. And I greatly appreciate every single one of y'all, even my naysayers. I appreciate y'all too, for giving me the views. But anyway, every story on this episode involves an animal of some sort. And the animal in every story plays a very important role in each of these stories. So, without further ado, we're going to get into the first story, and it's called The Motorcycle. So, in this story, it's about this guy who runs this farm, which used to belong to his grandfather, but his grandfather passed away and left the grandson in debt. So the grandson was trying to figure out how he was going to pay off all this debt. And so, he was calling his mother, talking to her, trying to get some advice on what he should do. And so he came to the conclusion that he may just have to sell the farm. And so, the mother really didn't have an answer for it because she was all the way in LA. So she really couldn't, do much for him. But the grandfather had this horse called Nugget. And before he died, he winds up selling all the other horses he had except for that one. And so one day, while the grandson was on the phone with his mother, he spots the horse, running around the farm. Apparently, he escaped from the trough. And so, he hangs up with his mother and he's trying to catch the horse to bring him back. So he's chasing the horse around the farm, trying to figure out, what the hell the horse was doing. And so he came to the barn, like the little opening or whatever in the barn, and he saw this motorcycle. And it turned out to be a Harley. And so next thing you know, he's trying to figure out what to do with it because it was old and run down. So he was trying to replace the part so it'd be worth a little more than what he figured it would be in the condition that it's in then. You know what I'm saying? So he calls this bike shop, and the guy at first offers him $1,500 for it. So the grandson is talking him into more money because it's a Harley. It's an old school Harley. So the final offer over the phone was 10 G's. And the grandson still felt like something wasn't right because the horse actually played a part in this whole ordeal. So he talks to his mother again. He tells her the whole thing, and the mother, she had connections. So it was another guy that she knew who owned the bike shop. And I guess this guy knew Jay Leno. So the guy who owned the other bike shop that was talking to the grandson over the phone winds up coming by his house. And so he gave him a final offer of $1,500. I mean, not 1,500, but 15 G's. But the grandson, it was something still wasn't right because when he reached out to take the check, the horse started going crazy. And so the grandson walks over to try to calm the horse down. So the phone rings and he goes in and answer it. And his mother got him an offer for $2 million for the bike. And so, of course, he turned the guy down. You know what I'm saying? Because that guy would have turned around and probably sold it for more than that. But, he got the bike sold, got the money, and now I guess everything is fine. So the story ended pretty well. And usually in stories on this show don't end so well, Sometimes they do, most of the time they don't. But for me, I'll give this story, I give it a 9 out of 10. It was pretty good. I paid attention the entire time. And so our next story, I'm just gonna jump right into it. Blind man's dog. Um, this one right here is a little ominous. I gotta say, for some reason, this story gave me goosebumps, man. Um, it's about this blind man who stays in this complex with his dog. Everybody in the complex respected him and the dog until one night the dog started howling and it woke everybody up out of their sleep. And so half the complex showed up at his door, trying to get him to shut the dog up. And the dog wouldn't stop because, a few days later it started howling again. So everybody, at that point, I guess I don't know if they were used to it or not at that point, but people started dying around the complex, in and around the complex, or the people that lived there. So the tenants, they put two and two together and they had a meeting, and one of the tenants really wanted the dog gone. And so the apartment manager kept telling him that he can't, can't just do that because the dog was the blind man's eyes, the seeing eye dog. So the blind man overheard everything they were talking about, and he voluntarily decided to go ahead and move because his sister wanted him to come out there with her anyway. And so the day that the blind man was packing up the last of his things and getting ready to leave, the dog starts howling again. And this gave the apartment manager shivers. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gave him like I don't know, it gave him dread because I guess he thought he was next. So, on the way to the bus station, train station, or wherever the blind man was headed to, he didn't make it. He got hit by a bus. And that's why the dog was howling for the last time. Him and the dog passed away. And so I felt like that was a sad ending. It was a terrible ending. But for some reason, like I said, this story creeped me out. You know what I'm saying? But I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Now, I'm going to break my own rule here by telling you, because usually I'm not going to tell you what story was fact and which was fiction. I'm going to have you watch the show for that, but I'm just going to tell you this one was fact. It might not have happened. It might not have happened, the exact way that we saw in the story, but it's true. It actually happened. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Our next story, deer hunters. Now, this one right here, this was one of the ones that for some reason I've been waiting for. Like, I've been waiting to watch this particular story. I just didn't remember which episode it was on. So it's about this hunter, right? Like, he's a certified dickhead. And so he brings his friend along to go hunting with him. But he's not going hunting in any ordinary forest or woods. He was going hunting, you know what I'm saying, in an Indian like game, not an Indian game trail, but it was like an old Indian reservation. You know what I mean? So his friend kept telling him that they wasn't supposed to be there, but the guy wasn't trying to listen to him. And so when they get to the area, not too long after that, his friend starts hearing like a drum in the distance. And so he started freaking out. He kept telling the guy that we got to go back. We got to go back. But the dude wasn't listening because he finally saw what he came there for. It was a buck. So, and for those who don't know, and I'm sure you do, it's a male deer. But, you know what I'm saying? The guy, he was laser focused on getting that buck, on getting his trophy. And so he shot the arrow, but it seems like he missed. But the guy was convinced that he hit the deer. And so he was trying to find where the deer might have fallen, but his friend kept insisting on going back. So the guy finally relented because he heard the drums too. And so now they're back on the road. And the same deer that, his friend thought he shot, he thought he saw like just standing in the middle of the road. But the guy was convinced that the buck they saw in the woods, he shot and killed. Because he was going to go back the next day to find it. But instead of, just forgetting about the whole thing, the guy decides to try to run down this deer. Like he thought it was a good idea to try to run this deer down. So right when they get up on the deer runs away. And his friend kept telling him to not do it. And next thing you know, they get into an accident and the guy winds up dying and his friend is severely injured. You know what I'm saying? But and then the sheriff that came out there, you know, they both spotted something on the ground that kind of gave the friend dread. It was like a golden arrow. It was from an Indian tribe, and nobody knew how it got out there. And they said that's the arrow that killed the buck instead. And so that's how that story ended. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, regardless, because like I said, I've been waiting to watch this particular story for a long, long time because it's been so long since I've seen it. I don't know why, but this was one of those stories that was stuck in my head. But anyway, we're moving on to the next story, Tribal Curse. So this one is about a tribe. It's about this researcher who comes out there to do research on the tribe. And off top, the tribal chief did not like him because he thought he was there just to mess with his daughter. But the researcher tried to convince the chief that he was only there to do research on their tribe and their way of living. So, not long after their conversation, the grandfather winds up dying. And the researcher and the granddaughter winds up having a conversation. And the daughter is telling the researcher nobody's allowed in the hut until her grandfather's soul leaves his body. But yo, the researcher did not listen, and he winds up going in the hut taking pictures of the grandfather anyway. And so the granddaughter walks in and catches him doing this, and she gets pissed off and runs away. And now the researcher is trying to catch up with her, to try to convince her that he needed these pictures, but she wasn't trying to hear it. So now there's this crow following the researcher. So instead now of him trying to catch up with her, is now him running from the crow. And so the crow was chasing him so long that the guy lost track of where he was running to and fell over a cliff and died. So the thing that you get out of this story is that maybe the grandfather's soul went into the crow for a short time just to get rid of the guy for doing what he did. You know what I'm saying? That's just what I got out of it. But I'll give this story a 9 out of 10. It was all right. I paid attention. But yeah, it was just all right. So the last story, the card game. At the beginning of this one, I sort of remember this one, but not really. When you look at it, it seems like the setting is from the 1800s. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'll tell you that part later, but it seems like the setting is from the 1800s. It's about this guy. They call him Lucky. And so, he wins every single card game he plays because like it's like you know what I'm saying, he's sliding cards out of his sleeves, the classic cheating trick. The classic trick of cheating. And so there's this mirror above him though, where the player opposite of him can see every card in his hand, but he still loses. You know what I'm saying? So he put up this watch that he had that his wife gave him for their anniversary. And so he winds up losing that. And then he gets kicked out for suggesting that Lucky was cheating, which he did, by the way. But, he got kicked out of the saloon or whatever, or the bar. At this point, it's a bar, but you know what I'm saying? And then that's where you see it's taking place in modern day because he almost got hit by a car. But, Lucky was in the bar one day, and this time, I guess he changed his shirt. And I know that's an unnecessary detail, but to change his luck. So next thing you know, the door opens and it's this older guy with his dog, and so he wants a game with Lucky, and so they get down to business. They start playing poker, and then the guy's dog is standing behind the guy, looking dead at Lucky, making sure he doesn't cheat. And when he tries to slide that card from out of his sleeve, the dog comes from under the table to his side, and so he can't do it. And now you can see the look on his face. He's very nervous because at that point he didn't know what to do. So he winds up losing the game, and he lost everything that he won. And so the guy was like, the next time I see that you're cheating, I'm not going to go as easy on you. So the guy left with all his shit, you know what I'm saying? So even the watch. So one of the guys I was in the bar knew that the man looked familiar. He just couldn't place him. And so at the end of the story, you find out he used to be what they called the hanging judge from back in the day, 1902. And it turns out that Lucky was playing against his spirit the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So that's how that story ended. And I got to be honest, this was probably the weakest story out of the 5. But I'm going to definitely still give it an 8.5. You know what I'm saying? Because I got curious to see how this one ended. Because I don't remember this one. But it was all right. This was a good episode. Like I said, every single episode involved an animal in some shape, form, or fashion. You know what I'm saying? It was great. That's all I can really say about this one. You know what I'm saying? I really don't have too much to say about it. The aftermath, but it was good. I suggest y'all watch it. But anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, give me a like, comment, and subscribe. I will greatly appreciate that, folks. And I'm out of here. I will talk to y'all later. Peace.
The feeling is mutual. Come in, take a seat, share your thoughts with each, and preach it when you speak, so we can share kinetic energy throughout the brainwaves. Keep us balanced out and all on the same stage.